and how it impacts on individual and results sometimes in suicides, homicides. And as we went to the break, we were looking at, children, adults, being depressed, being anxious, taking medication versus not taking medication. And you made the point, and an excellent point, sometimes the trauma, either in that moment or because it's built over time to that particular situation, someone can be in real dire straits to the point where they really feel like there is no hope left. They have totally given up. They just want to be away from the fear, the pain, the anxiety, the frustration, the anger, and often it results in people contemplating suicides or homicides.
Or at the very least, if they are not, considering medication, if the parents are not considering medication, their children are, and they will be self-medicating, right?
That's sometimes.
Very often alcohol, they'll be turning to alcohol or marijuana or whatever to help reduce the symptoms, to make the pain go away.
And all of those things can, even if not intentionally, lead to
they aggravate,
hurting themselves severely, dying, or hurting someone else.
Yes.
Maybe if we can talk a little bit about how does that progress in terms of the thought processes that goes through someone's mind, their sense of self, that sense of hopelessness, and what goes through someone's mind to the point of looking at, wanting to do themselves in.
Right. Well, to a certain extent, the ages between, the high school years, certainly, but let's say 12 to even into the 20s, 22, young people are prone to a feeling of, because they lack, one of the things at that age that they lack is perspective, and that this will end, or that this has purpose. And so that any child, even if they're not, or young person, even if they're not bullied, can feel lost and floating. And I see all kinds of, it's probably the number one thing that, after bullying that brings young people into my office, or the parents going, they're just not doing anything. And the young person says, oh, I just don't know, why am I in school? Why am I doing all of this? And so they're already vulnerable to a certain amount of depression without anything going wrong.
That's something that most parents, people in general, are just not aware, even though we went through it ourselves as young people, teenagers, but for whatever reason, I guess we forget, we're just not in tune to just how devastating sometimes that emotional turmoil that young people go through, as you said, without any outside trauma.
This is the unbullied child, you're just your average child.
Right.
For whatever reason, my friends know what they want to do. I don't know what I want to do. Why am I here? And then there can be really that hopelessness, or is really, what keeps us hopeful is the experience that these things pass, that things get better. And a young person doesn't necessarily have that experience. They just know this is, and at that age, they think, well, I have no evidence that this is going to continue. But
so if someone is sitting there already with these kinds of thoughts and fears and anxiety going on, and then on top of that comes someone, putting them down, beating on them, calling them names.
Right, it's just like fanning a fire for those types of problems. Like if I'm not already feeling, and because I'm going through puberty or whatever, and I don't have a girlfriend or I don't have a boyfriend, I'm already not feeling that great about myself. And then somebody tells me I'm useless and stupid, get these really aggressive, angry attacks, telling me that I'm worthless or telling me that I'm no good. It's just so easy to buy into that and start to to believe, well, imagine getting up for your day and not going, you know, I'm going to school and I'm going to have a good time, but
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm here. And when I go to school
Right.
today,
Right.
people are just going to be mean to me.
Right.
Everybody hates me. It's so easy to slip into a place where I don't want to be here anymore, or I certainly don't like being here. And people who don't experience anxiety and depression or are shocked that, you know, life, you know, isn't enjoyable, for lots of particularly young people, no, it's not. You know,
It's so true. That is so true. And as you said earlier about having perspective, because that often is what Smithson, in this moment, I'm angry and hurt and upset. And to that person, that's life. That's their life. You know, this moment will be forever. And they're just not able to see beyond, you know,
or if,
tomorrow, later, 5 minutes from now, something.
or if it's
could
been
change.
a period of time, you know, if it's been how many months or a year at that age, you know, that's what
lifetime.
percentage of your life? Yeah, that and
lifetime.
and you're looking ahead to your future
Right.
again with no experience that there is a future after that. Going, as far as I know, this has been the way it is for this long. This could very well continue, and so. And that, you know, strangely, a lot of people don't realize that the truly suicidal person is, they believe, taking their best shot. Like, this is their best shot at happiness, because they go, well, I'm not going to experience it here. If I'm dead, I don't know what that's like, but it's got to be better than this.
Can you explain that? Because that's an interesting point. You know, this is their best shot for happiness, killing myself.
Well,
I think a lot of people find a lot of difficulty understanding that.
Well, I guess the fundamental is the same thing that leads to drug use or alcohol
Right.
use, which is, I just want this to end. I just need to get away from this. And if I believe, again, that I can't see the future, that I can't, I cannot see out, you know, lying in a
Right.
hole, people
Right.
describe, you know, I cannot see stars over my head. There is no, I do not see any future in my whole life. And so why not wrap it up now, right? Like, I'm shortening to them at the time, it is something like euthanasia, that they
Right.
are, you know, looking at a lifetime of suffering. So I'm going to, and maybe it's extreme to say, you know, it's my shot at happiness, but at least ending my suffering.
Right.
You know.
So it's more about ending the suffering, getting away from the pain and the trauma, as opposed to wanting to die.
No, I think that, well, it's very difficult. They describe an ambivalence towards the difference between life and death. So even a functioning person who is depressed will say, you know, I'm getting through the days, but if I died tomorrow, that would be okay. They don't. Right, they don't celebrate. There's no celebration in life. It's just, yeah, I'm functioning. I'm getting through the days, but not necessarily that death will bring happiness. But can't be much worse than this, you know. That's
interesting. To follow along with that, I just want to highlight something. I was watching Dr. Phil a few weeks ago, and this has to do with homicide. And this was a young man that had killed 2 of his classmates and injured a number of others, and he's in prison for life. And I found it interesting when Dr. Phil was speaking. For me, it was kind of surprising what he said, because Dr. Phil was trying to get at the reason why he had gone out and done this. I was expecting him to say, you know, he was angry and hurt and he just wanted to hurt other people. But that's not what he said. What he said was he decided to go out and shoot up the school, not wanting to kill or hurt anybody, but it was like a form of suicide. He was hoping that by shooting up the place, the police would come and shoot him, because he had tried to kill himself, but he just didn't have the courage to follow through with it. So in a sense, the homicidal act was like a suicidal.
Yeah, it's kind of a special case. I mean, not that they don't end up
Right,
there,
right.
but we do imagine that homicides are caused by bullies.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And that does happen, certainly, where a group of students gang up on one student and abuse them and kill them. There are a couple of cases in Canada,
Right.
you know, one not so long ago in Vancouver, where a young woman was, you know, abused and eventually killed by
Right.
her taunters. But the interesting thing is that statistically, the people who kill people in schools are not bullies. They are the bullied.
Bullied,
They
right,
are the
right.
abused. And the reason for killing is often revenge or often revenge, that you hurt me and this is
I'm
the
gonna
only
hurt.
way that
Right.
I can hurt you now. You're bigger and stronger than me, but I can kill you. And so, yeah, statistically twice as likely
Right, right.
to be involved in a homicide situation. So when, again, and I hope that gives people a new perspective on bullying, because we often think, well, oh, poor Amanda Todd, you know, poor bullied person, that they might commit suicide. But think about this, like if these bullied people are absorbing this and taking it and coming back, they threaten everybody.
Everybody.
Not
And
just-
you're right. And for those of you out there, please hear this, because it is important that we may think, well, it's not happening to us, or I'm not doing it, so I don't need to worry about it. Particularly, you know, people who stand around and watch it happening. But you're right, because we never know at what point somebody's going to just become completely hopeless or hurt or angry or what have you, and decide that the way to deal with this is to take as many people along with them. And you don't know, you could unfortunately be the one in the hallway that day when, you know, they decide to shoot up the place, or somebody walking along the streets when you just, you know, in the theater.
That's
who
it.
knows?
And you look at those killings in Columbine, you know, the examples from the United States, where those kids were the outsiders. They were the ones that they weren't bullying anybody. And so, yeah, not only are we all vulnerable to the possibility, but bullying, we all have a breaking point.
Yep.
We all have a point.
all have a breaking
And
point.
again, without that, young persons without the perspective to be able to
And
step
at
back
that
from
point, we're going to be taking a quick break, and we'll be right back. Very good point.